So, what inspired the idea for this project?
Well, the idea for the project really inspired by the property itself. We bought the property in 1999 and we put an application in for development in 2005. But pretty much the property itself inspires the, what the product will be here. And that's just a great place of de-stressing and transformation.
And what kind of, there's been some concerns, with some of the developments. Can you just touch on some of those that they've been addressed or anything like that?
Well, all those concerns are in the draft environmental impact report, and they're well documented. And I would just tell people to read the report and understand, all the environmental issues from there. But it's a pretty environmentally sound project.
How excited are you about this? Actually, it's looking like it's actually going to keep moving forward. Can you just?
Well, we're very excited to finally do something with the property. We believe it should be open back to the public and let them come back up here and enjoy this great county resource.
Excellent. Is there anything that you'd like to express to the community about this project that they might not know about?
Again, I think the community that knows about this property probably would love to see it be reopened. And again, it's just a wonderful resource in the county. And South County here obviously could use some development of jobs, and the wine corridor could use some boost, along with the fact that the property itself really is meant for people to come up and transform themselves into a de-stressful, better, more relaxed type of person.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Oh, first and last name for me.
John Thompson.
Spell it for me.
THOMPSON.
And your title?
Managing partner.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so we just did a tour with the Paraiso Hot Springs possible planning development. What do you think of the whole deal? What's going on over here? What's important?
So Landwatch has been involved in the development since the early 2000s. We've been tracking it very closely, and our position is that the mega resort that the developer is planning, the Philadelphia developer, is way out of scale with what the property can handle. We do support the restoration of the original cottages here, so 50 units, but the 110 hotel units and the 77 timeshares, the restaurants, and all the other accommodations that they're hoping are just not appropriate given the landscape, the water, the roads, the fire hazards, and really the whole environmental setting. It just is not the kind of development our county needs, and it's not going to bring the kind of jobs and sustainable development that Landwatch supports.
Very well, and can you give us your name?
Michael DeLappa. I'm the Executive Director of Landwatch Monterey County.
So what we need first, this is an official Planning Commission meeting, so we are going to follow our regular procedures. So Chair Vanderveer, do you want to call the meeting to order?
Yes. I will call this meeting to order. This is a special meeting of the Monterey County Planning Commission. And I just want to make sure everyone understands that because this is a field trip, this is not an opportunity to get arguments for or against or about any detail of the project on the record, because there is no record. We're not keeping, this is not being recorded in any way, so it's important, if you have things to say about this project, that you either put them in writing and send them to us, or show up when we actually have a meeting in our chambers where it will go on the administrative record and be part of what we can use to reach the best decision possible. So what we're going to do today is simply learn more about what's being proposed. We're going to hear from the staff, we're going to hear from the applicant. There'll be an opportunity to ask some questions, to clarify things that we don't understand for both the commissioners and members of the public, but that's the purpose of today. And so if you do have things that you want to communicate to the Planning Commission about this project, though that this is not the good time to do that, because we really want to have that on the record, everything that everybody has to say. So with that.
Thank you. So I'm Mike Nova, I'm the staff planner on this project with the county. And to follow up on what Chair Vanderveer just said is, if you have anything you want to communicate, please submit it in writing between now and the public hearings. We'll be in public hearing likely in March on this, and if you need to be added to our email list, make sure you sign up in the back and give us either an email or a mailing address, and we'll make sure you get notice. So we do have sign-in sheets in the back. So we do want to make a fairly short presentation today to give you a lay of the land before we go out and see it out in the real world out there. But a lot of the function of today is for the planning commissioners to see the site, to understand how the project's laid out within the two valleys that make up this project. So, and if anybody needs restrooms, they're through this room back here. So you know. And when we go out on the walking tour, hopefully you have proper shoes for that. We will be going a little bit across country, staying mostly on some old ranch roads, but doing a little bit of cross country walking. So, Paraiso Hot Springs Resort, it's been a resort since the 1880s. Mr. Thompson here, this is John Thompson, he's the project applicant. He would like to rebuild the resort, essentially tear down the whole resort and put up a new resort with 170 unit, 103 hotel units and 77 timeshare units. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Thompson to talk a little bit about the project as he sees it.
Yeah. So good morning.
Good morning.
I thank you all for coming today. It's I'm very excited because this is the most people I've had here in 16 years. So I really appreciate people coming up and taking the time to really take what's on a flat piece of paper, walk around the site, and understand what we tried to put together, I guess, in 2005. So it's been some time, but it's important to understand the concepts and what we were all about when we proposed this project and what this land and what this property is about. So I think it's important to understand the first thing we did here is bring in biologists and geologists and hydrogeologists to map out all the environmentally sensitive areas of the property before any architects or designers would come up and actually put any kind of pencil to paper. We also then asked those designers and architects that were going to do that to come and stay on the property for 5 to 7 days and get a feel for what this property is about, not just kind of, hey, we think this would be a great hotel here or there or there. No, come and understand the property, understand why people have been coming here since 1874 as a resort, why people have enjoyed the hot springs and the hot waters, and what this property really does for people. So after about 5 or 7 days, they were pretty relaxed, probably too relaxed after sitting in the hot springs for 7 days, but they really came back to us and said, we don't see this as a golf property or anything like that. We really see this property as a place of rejuvenation, of transformation, of de-stressing. And we said, we're with you. We feel that too. We want you guys to really understand and feel that, come back to us before we put this together. So after they'd done that, we went and we business planned around that, and we found that there was a really good market for people who I would say, want to get back in touch with themselves and have a new path or a new revelation or transformation. And we started to plan about that, and we also started to plan around other ancillary opportunities in the wine corridor and the Pinnacles National Monument and things like that. And that's when we kind of put our plan together. They put a very good environmentally sensitive site plan together, but we tried in this plan to take care of a lot of different aspects. So in here there's opportunity. This area here is kind of what I like to call the sanctuary area. This is where people will come and stay on this property for 4 to 7 days under some kind of program. They're here to talk, about wellness or nutrition, or could be weight loss, or organic farming, or whatever they're coming here to help themselves with. This is kind of a non-public area where these people are going to be in this area and all part of this bigger spa component here that is going to have all those 4 to 7 day programs for those people. We have a lower end of the property here where we put about 15 to 20 units for people who don't want to be part of a program, a 4 to 7 day program. They just want to simply come for 2 days, 3 days, sit in a hot springs, maybe take in a massage, do a wine tour, do some hiking at the pinnacles. So we're able to accommodate those type of people with these units here. There was a public component where we believe some people want to come up and go to the restaurant, maybe have a massage, maybe use some of the hot springs, and that all started in this little public Hamlet area down there with those other 20 units. These 20 units down here, people would stay here, would use the day spa. They would not be part of the 3 to 7 day sanctuary area, as we call it. With that, we then, realized, based on previous use of this property, that people like to come more than a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks a year. They want to, that's a lifestyle they want to take in here at Paraiso. And so we developed what we call our lifestyle timeshare condominiums, which are all along here, and these are villa lots for timeshare villa lots here. And those are for people over time to come back and do what they want to do at Paraiso, more than once a year, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or 4 weeks. So we think there's an opportunity there for those type of people. This is the entrance coming in. We have a little visitor center. We have this little thing. It's in probably like phase 3 or phase 4. This is called the Paraiso Institute. It really is more of, I say, convention meeting space where early on we were working with a gentleman named Dr. Weil, and he was a famous holistic alternative medicine kind of guy, where he was thinking that he would be able to take and book a lot of alternative medicine people in conferences in these 20 units. They could walk down to the Institute, have their conventions and meeting space and things like that. This was a little bit of a wine tasting area for people staying on site. And this plot of land right here that represents this vineyard is where the old Soledad Mission Vineyard actually was. So we tried to plan that into our plan as well. And that's kind of the basis. You'll see today as you walk around, we're hoping you get the feelings we got when we put this together in 2005. And we got a beautiful sunny day, and I thank you all for coming.
So I want to go through some of the slides of some of the topics we'll be seeing out in the field, just briefly, and also to introduce you to some of the information that we have. I know I'm in the way of some folks. Some of the information we have in files, so if you have any specific interest, biology or landscaping, this is a conceptual landscape plan, slope development, things like that. We have all these sheets back at our office and also online, so if you're interested, give me a call or an email and I'll send you whatever you need. Unfortunately, this doesn't show up too well, but these darker areas are the slopes over 30%. And as you can kind of see, the layout of the project has been worked around those 30% slope areas. There is a road that goes across this 30% slope that we talked about in our project alternatives, about eliminating it potentially. We've got a few of the hillside condominium timeshares that are encroaching the 30% slope. We'll see all those things as we go out on the field trip. Again, when Mr. Thompson talked about working around the resources, this is the biological resources of the site with the white representing the previously developed area. You can see from this where some of the tree removal is going to occur. I know the colors don't show up well on the screen, unfortunately, but there's oak tree removal in this area with the timeshare condominiums, and in this area, and a little bit down around the hotel area. We'll point those out on the field trip today.
Mike, will you point where we are standing right now?
Sure, not on that map. Although that would definitely have it. So this is the amphitheater area proposed with the new project. The lodge building is right on the edge of it. So the grass area you had, I was going to start the field trip right out in front, showing that that grass area is essentially where the amphitheater will be. Hotel is going to be behind us. So pointed out the oak tree removal, which is has specific findings under the county code. The next two slides are just the demolition plans. Essentially everything on the property is going to be removed, and they're going to build the resort anew. This is kind of a conceptual grading plan. If you see the darker red areas, that's where they're going to do more excavation into the hillsides, and the darker blue areas are going to be where they're going to have more fill areas. So this kind of gives you an idea of where they're cutting and filling on the property to make all the resort work. And we'll point out some of the, especially in this area on the field trip today, we'll point out some of this, where the slope, this road cuts across the slope, and we'd have to do some fill. This one is just an excerpt from the biological showing the wetlands areas. This is riparian habitat, and then there's a couple, there's 2 or 3 jurisdictional wetlands already mapped on the property. And we will point out some of that on the field trip too. This is just an aerial photo of the area. This is the property, of course. We are right here. It's called the recreation room. That's where the amphitheater is proposed, where the grass area is out in front. As you drove up here today from Clark Road, you saw there's a few neighbors along the road, and some of them are very close to the road, so they have some very specific concerns about the project. Just want to point out that this also shows the faults, and they have developed outside the fault areas out here. This is the tentative map, so if you want to really get into the project details, we have this tentative map shows the construction improvements, the roads, the sewer lines, water lines, the lot layout, where the buildings are going to be, all those kinds of things. So again, if you want to get into any details, give me a call, and I can share that with you.
Could I
Yes.
just point out where the geothermal resources are? We haven't talked about the actual hot springs at
Sure.
all yet.
So there is a well called the Soda Springs well that pumps out geothermal or warm water approximately in this area, and we'll show you the existing pool and I think the well itself as we walk out of here today. It's just right over here to the left of the lodge, and hence the reason for this resort. The hot springs have been used for centuries by the Native Americans and then by us as we came and colonized the Europeans coming into the area, and it's the reason for being here and not finding another location for this facility. One of the other parts of the project is they are proposing some road improvements to Paraiso Springs Road between the project entrance and Clark. And I just wanted to show that on the map. If you're interested in any of those improvements, again, contact me. We have detailed drawings, actually surveyed showing where those improvements could occur. We won't be walking out to that area today, but you can see it on the drive out. There is a preliminary fire protection plan that was prepared by one of the applicant's consultants that shows hydrants and reservoir storage and things like that. So I know fire is a big issue out here, and so we want to make sure we have that covered in our planning and in the staff report we prepare for the commission. This shows the old resort as it looked probably in the 70s and 80s and 90s. The buildings in red were the ones that have been removed without permits and are going through this process. And these were designated historic resources. 9 of them were. And so the reason for the EIR is because they have significant unavoidable impacts to historic structures. So,
Mike, where were those relative to where we are right now?
yeah, again, I'll show them outside, but we are in the lodge building here, so they were around behind us and then down this side of the resort towards the hot springs area and the pools. And you'll see some of the other structures here. We have the line of mobile homes you saw over there. And you'll see the hillside cabins on our walking trip too. They still exist. We have 4 alternatives we analyzed in the EIR. I wanted to talk a little bit about it because we're going to talk about it on the field trip. Where the first one's a no project alternative where the project is not approved, and so we have the resort as it stays would be the alternative. The other alternatives have to do with taking timeshare condominiums off this hillside and relocating them over where there's some timeshare villas, they call them, kind of like single-family dwelling homes. Not used as single-family dwellings, they're used as timeshares, but moving those condos off of the hillside and into the valley floor. I just want to point out there's 2 major valleys here, Paraiso Springs Valley and Indian Valley. Here is where all the developments, or most of the developments proposed with some on the hill in between.
Wait, hold on.
And again, we'll discuss some of that in the along the field trip.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to point out here is this is the Geologic Hazards map, and they again did a very good job of putting most of the development in the lower issue areas. I'm not going to point anything out there today, but just from this map you can see a lot of the development occurs in the one. These are the hillside, the villa timeshares. A lot of the condominium timeshares are in this area, hotels back in this area, and going back into here with some more villa timeshares. And so the S's are really the issue for us to make sure you avoid landslide areas, and the S's designate old landslide areas, so they've done a good job of avoiding those areas. So at this point, we're going to turn it back to the commission for any questions or just direction to proceed.
And before we do that, I also just want to note that I believe the entire planning commission is here today, all 10 members. And if
Nine.
Oh, that's true, we're down to 9.
Thank you,
So
sorry.
all 9 members.
I have to do roll call, so.
Well, it's okay, we don't need to do, we don't need to do a formal roll call. I'm just going to note that we have all 9 and ask them to raise their hands so people know who they are. Okay, and does that, any of the members of the commission have questions for staff or the applicant at this point?
So I do want to point out a couple things. Again, we are going to be doing a little bit of cross-country, so make sure you have the right shoes. You don't have to go on the walking tour, but if you don't, please don't wander around the property. This is private property. When we are on the walking tour, I do want to gather at specific talking points. So I'm going to wait for everybody to come to the area before I make any comments in that area so everybody can hear. There are some small versions of the map, the site plan, on the desk behind you. So if you want to bring something with you to make notes on, feel free to do so. And we'll meet outside in 5 minutes to give anybody an opportunity to use the restroom. So right out in front of the lodge. So inside, Commissioner Deal had asked about where the hot water is. What are we here for? The hot spring. So there's a structure right behind you that has a well that draws from the hot springs, and the structures up here. You'll see some of the old bass structures here. The pools are back through these palm trees. We'll see that as we come around back towards the end of the tour as well. But all the facilities are right in this area because that's where the warm water is. So.
And is that expected to remain similar, or are we moving hot water around further?
Yeah, they're going to have spas and pools in the same locations, generally speaking. They're going to have some spas that are going to pump some of the water up to some tubs up on a trail where it's called the Natural Solarium area, if I remember right, on the concept plan. We're not going to go up there today because that's too strenuous of a hike. But there's a hiking trail with some remote tubs that will be filled with warm water too. But this is primarily the area for the guests staying here, and then there's going to be a day spa on this side of the grassy area. So we'll keep moving on.
Mike, are the trees going to stay or go?
They're going to preserve as many trees as possible, but the oaks The palms are probably all going to go. They actually had one fall, as you can see, just 5 days ago. And they have somebody looking at them to see if they're worth keeping or not, but they are very old, and so they're going to try and preserve a lot of landscaping, as the developer understands. You know, having that kind of ambiance when you open is important. It takes a long time to grow an oak tree, so they want to preserve as many of the oaks as they can.
Any artifacts from Native Americans in this area?
There are resources. Can't point those out though. All right, so we'll continue up here. All right, hopefully everybody can hear me. So I want to point out on this, and I know this isn't the best setting to see this at a distance, but if you picked up one of the tentative maps and brought it with you, I just want to point out where we are. We just came out of the main proposed hotel area, walked along here. We're going to walk up this hill back here, which is these line of hillside condominiums, the timeshares. Then we're going to come back to here and have an overlook over the hotel area in the back and the hillside condominiums, or the valley floor timeshare condos back here. Then we're going to walk out, see the Indian Valley area, which is where the villa timeshare units are proposed. And we'll see down here some more hillside timeshare condominiums. And then we'll walk down, back along, and show you the commercial and day use area. So we're approximately right here at the bottom of this hill. These timeshares will be on this slope going up here. So we're going to make a turn and go up here. We'll try and find a flatter spot to go up. If anybody wants to go a little steeper, they can go straight up here. We're going to come back over here.
I can see it now. Daughter's up at the Y playing.
So you just finished the steeper part of your workout for today. So we are going to go a little further up this hill though. I want to show you an overlook for the hotel and some of the timeshare condominiums in the back. But I want to point out we're approximately in this location. So what's going to happen along this hillside is you're going to have a road approximately where we're walking up, kind of towards this side, and then the hillside timeshare condominiums will be along this whole path, as you see, all the way up as you've been walking. And they'll go about to where we stop and turn around. We're going to come back down this way. We'll show you this whole line of condos, and then we will show you the overlook for the hotel a little further up. Any questions? Yes, Martha?
Is there a planned significant change to the contours in this location, or does it stay pretty much with the natural contours with the exception of buildings and brooks?
They're staying pretty much with it. They're going to have to do a little bit of grading for the structural and all that. They're going to work around these oak trees over here. There is some oak tree removal in this area though, and there are some steeper slopes. I think there's 3 buildings proposed in this area, which does encroach into 30% slopes. Most of the rest of it is on the flatter areas.
How much oak tree removal is some?
Well, overall project is over 100, I think 185 or something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head, but for the whole project.
I assume that's both blue oaks and coast oaks, white oaks?
All oak trees, all varieties, yeah. 185. All right, so we'll walk up to kind of a better overlook a little further up. Take your time, we'll congregate up there as well.
Just looking over there.
If you all might want to move a little bit this way this is the overlook for the hotel and the timeshare condominiums in the back.
Oh, yeah. All right. Wait, what'd you say that again?
I'm going to wait till everybody gets up there.
Come on up.
Downhill's next. So I want to point out where we are. For those of you following along, we're at the end of these timeshare condominiums along this hillside. At this point, they're going to have a cul-de-sac, and there's a proposed road that cuts across down here to keep its grade. It's going to go along the side of this hill and end up back in the back of the valley back there is where the other timeshare condominiums are located, back here. And the area below you here, pretty much everything you can see from the palm trees back to that area is the hotel resort, the recreation facilities, the hotel units, all that. So they've utilized the valley floor for the majority of the development for the hotel itself and those timeshare units in the back. Yes?
Will this road be the only access to those units?
Right now they are able to come down to those units, but also there's a service road that we may actually, we're thinking about having more potential width on that to have potentially two means of access.
Wait, from coming up from the valley floor, you mean?
It goes up through the resort. There's going to be a service road. And so we're looking at options for that. So anybody have any questions about the site layout at this point? We are going to go back down, see the other hillside condominium timeshares, and then see the villa timeshare area in Indian Valley next. So we're going back down the hill unless anybody has any questions. Yes, sir.
There's something about hot tubs up here, or campsites up here, a trail up here. Is there something else we're not hearing about?
No, well, it's on the map. This is the trail here. It's the old ranch road. And they are going to have what they call a solarium area out there with some hot tubs. It's going to be up in those, about where those white, I'm not sure what that is up there. It's like a table or something upside down. That's going to be where they have these little areas for people to relax in a hot tub and enjoy the views. You're welcome. If nothing else, we'll be heading back down. We'll meet at the bottom where we turned up here, and I'll gather you up from there. I just want to point out where we are now and where we're headed next. We're approximately right here where those hillside timeshare condominiums end. There's another set of hillside timeshare condominiums in here. You can see the old cabins that have been here since maybe the 40s. I'm not sure when these were built. 60s, okay, 60s. And these will be torn down. The other set of hillside condominiums will be in this area. There's obviously some oak tree removal going to be needed. There are going to be larger structures than you see here. Next thing we're going to do is walk a little bit down here and come back into Indian Valley, which is right next door here. We've been on the ridge between Paraiso Valley and Indian Valley. So we're going to walk over there, see where the villa timeshare units are going to be, and then we'll loop around back towards the lodge. All right, so I want to again give you a kind of a layout of where you are on the project site. This is Indian Valley on this side of the hill that we just walked down. This is where what they call the villa timeshare units are proposed. We'll walk around a little bit around this corner and go back and look in the valley. They've pretty much avoided tree removal in this area. It's pretty much open meadow between that hillside and the hillside we were on is where all these units are proposed. And then this bee wants to suck my blood or something.
Honeybee.
So I don't think anything else to say here. We'll take a little walk that way, go see a little bit more of the valley around this large tree here, and answer any questions you have up there. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about this area. As you recall from what we just said down there, this is where the villa timeshare units are going to be. They're the ones that are going to look kind of like single-family dwellings. There's 17 proposed out here. Our alternatives that we analyzed in the EIR do move the timeshare units off of the hillside we were just on and take up 12 of these 17 lots for some of those condominium timeshares to reduce aesthetic impacts to the Salinas Valley. So those units would be along here, and the villa, the larger house timeshares would be along the back here. So the condominiums will be moved off that hill down into this area under some of our alternatives in the EIR, if you've been reading that section of the EIR. So it gets brushy back here, but the valley floor sloped approximately like this all the way back throughout this development area. There's no 30% slopes encroachment in this area. And there's not too much tree removal. They're going to try and work around some of these trees, especially the big ones back here. And the project entrance road is right behind you as well. We'll walk back out that way. So any questions in this area?
Yeah, I see the best one flag, but they have to take those to the house on top of the
Well, they're not proposing it, first of all. You can start walking. That's a whole different discussion. So, the house is on the hill. We have what's called one side.
That was a fun
All right, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to tell you the next part of this project. Just want to talk a little bit about the entrance road because it is not on the alignment of this existing road. It is through this section, but about where that electric pole is up there, it turns off to the left and goes around kind of along the edge of the hillside. And I'll show you where it comes out at the end near what's called the Hamlet Area. We'll walk up there. But the road we're on cuts through like this. And the proposed road will go more along out to the hillside and up.
And Mike, is that is a residence that doesn't have anything to do with this project? A private residence?
Yeah, all the residents, this gate is the end of the
So they would go
property line.
through this property, they have an easement through this property?
That's a county
No,
road.
no, they come up from the other side. Yeah, this is the end of Paraiso Springs Road right there. So.
Buffalo and Yellowstone Park. Stop and let them part around you. You don't try and drive through.
So I wanted to point out a couple things in this area. The road's again going to split off and go. There's a creek right over here. There's going to be a bridge across the creek. If you can kind of see through the trees, there is a flat area over there. That's where the old vineyard was, and that's where he's proposing to resurrect the old, or plant a new vineyard. And there's a visitor center over there as well. Again, the road's going to go out over that way. And so there's a wastewater treatment facility as well. They're going to treat everything to tertiary standards here and use it for landscape irrigation on site. So that treatment facility is right down behind you, kind of at the edge of this grassy area. And we have another car coming behind you, so yeah, just kind of right over there. No, it will not be in the creek. Has to be set back from the
So like, the delineated wetlands are down here, not up one time. There's not any place we've been previously.
There's a wetland in the middle of the amphitheater lawn, just because of the springs flowing into that area for the last thousands of years. So, yeah, there is a little bit, but they've, like I said, they've designed the structures around all those areas. They do have to cut through a riparian woodland here, though, to get across the creek to the other side.
Does the creek flow sunglasses, seasonal? Are you okay with the shoes too? Better than I am. Thank you.
Kind of an opening in the trees. So again, I want to point out where we are on the map. For those of you keeping track, we're approximately right here, which is where what's called the Hamlet Area, which is the day use area for the people that are not staying at the resort, where they have day spa, they've got restaurants, artist studios, things like that, and they've access to all that. So that's going to be all in this area where the mobile homes are, around the edge of the amphitheater lawn right behind you. And I wanted to point out one of the 30% encroachments is, you can kind of see two terraces right back there. That's an old parking lot, and they are proposing to expand that a little bit to make it a more rigorous parking lot. There's a pretty deep cut back in the back corner of that parking lot. If you look at the grading map that shows those dark reds and dark blues, one of the dark red areas is back here, encroaching in 30% slope. So that's a big cut area. The hotel itself is also a big fill area. When you look at that map, it's I think 10 to 14 feet of fill in some areas. to get all their slopes for everything up there. So day use area in here, visitor center back there in the vineyard, Hamlet commercial area, restaurants, some hotel units back in this Hamlet area as well. I think Mr. Thompson said 18, and then the rest of them would be back behind the lodge area. So this really concludes our field trip, unless anybody has any questions. Oh, the pools, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They're right behind you. Did you want to, if you want to actually go over there, we could go over there. So.
A lot of people have never seen them.
All right, we're going to go see the pools.
Can we walk?
So if you want to come in one at a time, this is the spring area.
Wait, what are we seeing?
The spring. We're going to see the pools next down that way.
The spring being
The warm
where
one
the
that they
water,
use
and
for all the
is this where
spas
they're
and
going to put the, like a little...
And repaint it, we've done a little bit here and there, but
This is where the
all day long.
everybody's gonna want to touch it.
How hot is it, Amy?
About 105.
105, that's perfect. That's where we're going.
We're going to go down.
Go back
Walk
out.
down that.
I've seen it before.
That's better than the ones outside of Paso. They're like 95 here.
Actually, when you did good, you Janet.
Glad you came out. Definitely gives it a little perspective, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you got some 3D to it?
Oh, yeah,
Instead of a flat piece of paper?
No, right. It's like, oh, okay.
And the flat piece of paper looks kind of crowded.
No, it's just really, yeah, it really is.
Boy, it's that clear water.
Yeah.
Clear, doesn't smell either.
Do you...
I had no egg.
Nothing here. Just turns over enough gallons, there's no treatment.
So it goes right through?
And then it goes to the next pool, and then the Olympic-sized pool, we don't fill it all.
But you're going to rebuild all these...
Yes, this is all going to go. Yeah, not where, no, not that.
When you can see that steam coming out.
Yeah.
So is this going to be like the back of the resort? Like the resort's back here, right? So
No,
you're
this
gonna
is
have
kind of like attached to the Hamlet area. These are like the old pools where, public would, come up, be part of a spa treatment, maybe come over to the old pools for some hot water and things like that. So
And
this
this
is
is
not,
where the day
the back
use
sanctuary area, I would say,
It's
would
going to be more like the hotel, and
Yeah.
then there's going to be more hot pools back there, and then there's springs back there too, like a natural.
No, we could
you're
use the
gonna
same
pump it
hot
up.
spring probably to,
Just pump up the water.
Is that the normal water flow, or does it fluctuate?
that's tempered pretty low.
Less than a quarter. Right?
There's a valve and it's
regulated then?
Yeah, because I wouldn't be able to get in it if I opened it full. It would be 110 degrees.
I thought there's no sulfur smell.
No. Although
What is
my
the
brother-
mineral content?
it's almost like 22 drinking quality. It has some more minerals in it, that are good for you. So,
I love the fact that
sulfur.
Yeah.
Although my brother made me buy this place because it cleaned up his athlete's feet, so I guess
There's
there
a
is
good reason.
there is a little bit of sulfur in there somewhere.
I'm gonna do it too. Your waterfall. I don't see anything moving. The better to see everything with.
Now, what are you filming for?
I do a YouTube channel, anything current events in the Tri-County area.